Episode 6 of Jack of All Trades, Party of None is one of those episodes that doesn't scream for attention, but the more you sit with it, the more it quietly gets under your skin. There are no massive twists, no over-the-top action set pieces, and no dramatic cliffhanger. Instead, this episode chooses something far more interesting: reflection. Up until now, the series has sold us on a simple but effective fantasy, a protagonist who can do everything. No party drama, no betrayal, no waiting on slower teammates, just pure efficiency. And honestly, that fantasy has been pretty satisfying to watch. But Episode 6 asks a dangerous question. What if doing everything alone isn't strength? What if it's fear? This episode slows the pace down considerably, and that's very much intentional. From the opening moments, the atmosphere feels quieter, heavier. There's a sense that we're not moving forward in the story as much as we're moving inward, into the mindset of our main character. The episode places him in situations where his jack-of-all-trades skill set still works perfectly. He adapts, survives, and succeeds like always. But for the first time, the show lingers on what those victories cost him emotionally. Not in dramatic speeches, but in silence, in pauses, in the way scenes end a few seconds later than you expect. One of the strongest aspects of Episode 6 is how it handles isolation. The protagonist doesn't complain about being alone. He doesn't monologue about loneliness. Instead, the episode shows us small moments, missed conversations, temporary companions who move on, brief connections that could have become something more if he had just stayed. And that's what makes it hit. Because this isn't a character who can't form bonds, it's a character who chooses not to. The supporting characters in this episode deserve special credit. Even though none of them join him permanently, they feel more human than usual. They aren't just quest givers or background NPCs. Each one represents a path not taken, a version of life that includes cooperation, trust, and shared burden. There's one interaction in particular that stands out. It's not emotional on the surface, no tears, no dramatic music cue, but when the moment ends, you realize something important was lost, not through tragedy, but through choice. And that realization lingers longer than any fight scene would. Visually, Episode 6 is restrained in the best way. The animation doesn't try to impress you with flashy cuts or exaggerated movement. Instead, it leans into mood, softer lighting, muted colors, wide shots that emphasize just how alone the protagonist really is in the world. The soundtrack follows the same philosophy. For long stretches, there's barely any music at all, and when it does come in, it's subtle, almost hesitant. It supports the emotion instead of telling you what to feel, which is something a lot of fantasy anime struggle with. Now, let's talk pacing, because this will be the most divisive part of the episode. If you're watching Jack of All Trades, Party of None, purely for progression, power scaling, or constant adventure beats, Episode 6 might feel slow. There are moments where the plot barely moves forward. Some scenes feel deliberately drawn out. But that's also the point. This episode isn't about what happens next, it's about why things are the way they are. And more importantly, whether they need to stay that way. By the end of Episode 6, nothing has dramatically changed on the surface. The protagonist is still alone, he's still capable, he's still choosing independence, but the cracks have started to form. You can see doubt creeping in, not loud enough to force change yet, but loud enough that it can't be ignored anymore. And that's what makes this episode such an effective turning point. It doesn't rush growth, it plants the seed. Overall, Episode 6 is a quiet but powerful chapter in the series. It deepens the main character without betraying who he is, and it reframes the core fantasy of the show in a more mature, introspective light. This isn't about abandoning the Party of None idea, it's about questioning it. Final rating, 8 out of 10. A reflective, character-driven episode that trades spectacle for substance and comes out stronger because of it.